So you want me to just take you through my journey? It's the best way to describe it, if anyone asks me, they would say it's a career suicide, because I literally did almost everything. I explored different service lines. Anything that did not resonate with me, I would just, move on to the next. At one point in time, I was asking myself, am I doing the right thing? Because every 6 to 12 months, I'm like, okay, I want to try a new service line. So when I talk about my background, I started in external audit, and then I moved into management consulting, and then I did risk management. Um, I literally did anything and everything. I just needed stuff to keep me excited, especially when you sacrifice your personal hours and your rest time for work. It better be worthwhile. And the only thing that I needed is I needed my mind to be constantly challenged. And I guess maybe that's when I discovered actually I'm quite a restless person. Before that, people used to say I'm just way too laid back, I'm too chilled, but I don't know what happened at work. Something happened. And I think one of the key things to mention, and I always refer back to the youth because I deal with a lot of youth who approach me for support. And I keep telling them, listen, at the start of my career, honestly, I did not know anything. And there are also people who did not help the situation because they would reinforce that feeling that, there's this bizarre expectation that we should be walking in fully loaded with experience just because we have a degree. And as if university, pre-installs you with experience, which they don't. And back then, we're talking about over 25 years ago, there were no laptops, there was no Google, there was no really much reference material. At least for me, in the space of external audit, I had to refer to these long binding, like with a metal binder on a long document. It's a longer page. It's more than a A3, I think. It's kind of like a very strange shape. And you have to learn how to read people's handwriting because nothing was printed. And I'd have to go through this crazy amount of documentation and ask myself, like, okay, what am I doing here? The only options I have is either I go through that or I ask human beings. And back then, the human beings weren't so nice. So just to give you a little bit background about me, I was one of the only women in that organization, and I was the only local person. Back then, most of them were expats. And of course, the expats, they come with a completely different model of experience where they get to do 2 years of, I think, internship or whatever they call it, qualification. Whereas for me, being a local, I just jump out of college and into a job. And
Please just hang on for a moment. If we can please mute ourselves while the speakers are on. Thank you so much, everyone. Shatha, please do take us through.
yeah.
You're muted, Shatha.
Shatha, please unmute your mic.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay. Yeah. And so back then I was like, okay, if I ask questions, I'm going to sound stupid. And if I don't ask questions, I'm going to feel stupid. Which one do I do? And I remember 6 months in, I said, I'm just constantly being given tasks, but I honestly couldn't understand the bigger picture. And so I decided, and now when I look back, I don't know what the hell I was thinking, but I must have been possessed or something with some kind of courage. I went straight to the partner of the firm and I told him, look, I've been here for 6 months. I don't feel like I'm benefiting from this experience. And he said, okay, don't worry about it. And I think this is a huge turning point. People might think it's something really small, but he told me, we're doing charity work. How about you take one of those clients where, there's charity work? I'm not worried if something goes wrong. Go test it out on your own. And then I thought to myself, oh my God, I think I just dug a bigger hole for myself. Now he's asking me to do this on my own. When I worked with the team, they didn't help me, and now I need to go on my own. But he said, you know what? Go to the storage, pull out the files, figure things out. I said, okay. And actually, that was a huge turning point for me because when I went through the file, I started understanding what these abbreviations mean. I started understanding the bigger picture of why do we audit? What does it mean when something goes up, when something goes down? And I won't say that I was overconfident, but I would say that the anxiety went away. And when I submitted my file, I was afraid of the supervisor back then because he just seemed very aggressive with everybody in the office. And then suddenly he calls out that particular client and he says, who did this? And I was like, oh, Lord, save me. And then I said, it was me. And then he's like, I don't believe it. And then I said, is that a good thing or a bad thing? He said, no, this is excellent. So for me, that's when I suddenly started building confidence and saying, oh my God, this job is really easy. It's just, there's two parts to it. Obviously, if I had nice mentors, it would have been nice if people were supportive. But reality is people are not always supportive, especially in workplaces that's very high pressure. Things have to get done. We work 12 to 16 hours a day. But then that was just the beginning or like a turning point for me, saying, you know what I've learned from that experience is that I tell every young person in my organization, you have 1 year to acclimate. You have 1 year to ask me as many stupid questions as you like. And you have 1 year to make as many mistakes. Just don't make the same mistakes over and over again so that I can make sure that they don't lose that confidence. I gained my confidence. I was lucky. I'm raised by a very strong mother who is a businesswoman, who's an engineer, who's been a parliamentarian and a social worker. So it helps a lot when I go back home and someone kicks me in the back and says, just go back. The other turning point is when people were asked to go, outside the field, places that might not feel very safe. And I told my mom, it seems like the guys are freaking out, so why should I go? Maybe I should just tell them I don't want to go. And she said, this is precisely why women fall behind. She's like, you're not going to make any excuses for them to use your gender against you. Just go ahead. And I remember one of the funniest moments is when I was asked to go to Yemen, and Yemen was not exactly a stable time during that time. There were bombings and all that. And I told her, Mom, now they're asking me to go to Yemen. She's like, so go. And I said, what do you mean? It's not safe. She's like, oh, just get life insurance. I said, life insurance is not going to bring me back safe, And then she's like, don't worry about it. And again, I do believe, I think it also created a spiritual experience because something personal happened. I had to cut my trip shorter. And when I came back the following day, my hotel was bombed, not the day I was there. So I said, what's meant to be is meant to be, and you gotta wing it through life. Can you hear me?
Wow. Yes. Thank you so much, Shatha.
Yeah.
That is absolutely amazing. I think it's so amazing that you used your gender not only as a limiting factor, but as a motivation factor. And absolutely amazing to your mother for actually encouraging you in that route, even though it meant going into a very unsafe country. But that is very amazing. I guess then that leads us, I think, to question ourselves, or rather ask you, like, what were some of the struggles and limitations and humble beginnings you faced trying to build the life and career you have now, where you can actually tell young girls that, listen, this is the blueprint. You've got a year to ask me stupid questions, and after that, that's done. What were some of the struggles and limitations that you went through to get you here?
To be very honest, I think I was in a headspace. I definitely went through a number of challenges, but going back to the way I was raised, there was no breathing space for someone to allow me to feel sorry for myself, which is my mom. There's just no breathing space to even feel sorry for myself. So if I tell her, look, I was treated unfairly, I did not get the appraisal I wanted, and all she would say is, oh, I'm really sorry. No, she would just tell me, go back and fight it out. I was like, I don't want to lose the opportunity for a promotion, or I don't want to lose an opportunity. She's like, no, just she taught me how to be confrontational, but still using my feminine energy. I think that's one thing, because I told her I can never be aggressive, Mom. I cannot take on a masculine energy because that's not who I am. I do understand that there needs to be a balance, but I can't be masculine, and I don't want to be seen that way. I think I have a strength as a feminine, as a woman, and I want to take that with me. But later on, when I was dealing with women who were struggling at the workplace, not my workplace, but just coaching them and so on, that's when it hit me. And I was like, oh my God, I've been through all these struggles. I just never framed it that way because I went back home to men who embraced me and a mom who just ensured that she puts, blinders and says, there's no such thing as age bias. There's no such thing as gender bias. Yes, it does exist. And she told me one time, which shocked me because my mom is seen as this person who's very powerful. And she said, I had moments when I had to drive to work and I felt like vomiting. And I got shocked. And I told her, what do you mean? She's like, there were some people that were not nice. And my mom she got to the top of her game. She was a board member in her in her mid-20s. She was a technical advisor in telecom. And I'm just sharing this context to help you understand, I guess, where she built her confidence from. So the bullies are actually the ones who helped her rise faster. So I think I look at it that way too, is that all the struggles I went through, I thank them. If age was a bias, that I look too young to be to receive my advice, so be it. If I look too feminine, that I might be too emotional or whatever, you know, or too aggressive. They use all these labels on us. Just let it get past your head and look, you know, as long as we're comfortable to say when we're wrong, and we're comfortable to know to stick, you know, to stick strong with what we believe in. And for me, I feel like every single struggle did not demolish me. I think it actually fueled me to rise above. And there's always two ways of looking at things. But one way I did to win everybody is like, I'm going to make sure they're dependent on me. And nobody understood what that meant, you know. But I said, I'm going to make them dependent on me, whether they treat me fairly or not. When it reaches a point where it contradicts when someone says they're fighting for me for their department, but not giving me the appraisal I deserve. I'm like, look, if you want me to move to your department, you better give me the appraisal I deserve. You better reward me with the bonus that I should have earned. So I feel like so many of these instances of unfairness were actually reassurance for me, because I realized that I don't have to speak too much. I can let the performance speak for itself. And that is something that was very hard, especially for men, to ignore. When you perform as a woman, every man will want you on his team.
Thank you. That is absolutely true. Let the work speak for itself. Then they can't deny your gender. They can't come for you for your femininity. But also, it's so amazing that you honed in and basically went into your femininity and didn't shy away from that, and allowed your femininity to speak for itself and speak for you, instead of having to take on a more masculine role, which I know that for a lot of women is a pressure in the professional and in the world, in fact. So it's such an important lesson. I've noted that down myself. So essentially, what fears, insecurities, or moments of self-doubt did you battle silently on your journey to success? I know you mentioned the fact that there was no breathing space. If maybe you can take us through that and other aspects that you felt really made you feel insecure or self-doubt, particularly in the beginning of your journey.
I can tell a story. I think that's the easiest way to put it. When I went to the US, obviously I was the only foreigner. At that time, SOX compliance was big. There was a lot of opportunities, and I was asked if I'm interested. I explored it, took the job. But of course, I went through a lot of insecurities because I actually saw 2 rounds of redundancies where half my team were just shut down and lost their job. And I remember at one point, I was like, oh my God, I'm like next. I'm supposed to make my family proud that, you know, I'm working in the US, and now I'm going to just be packing my bags and going home. And when I missed the bullet twice, so I told myself 2 things. I said, either I'm doing something right or I'm underpaid. Anyways, both ways, I'm okay with it, you know? But I do remember being in a meeting, a leadership meeting. I was quiet. And the moment I had something to say, someone cut me off. A man interrupted me. And this was a huge turning point, because the woman in the room, who was a senior country partner, she lost it on him. She actually asked him to shut up and let me finish what I was saying. And I won't deny it. I was so scared the way she was aggressive. I said, I don't even know if I can remember what I wanted to say. But then she turned around and looked at me with a beautiful smile. And she said, can you please complete what you wanted to say? And then she took me privately to her office. And we had a really nice discussion. And she said, you know what? You have so much to add in these leadership meetings. How come you don't talk? And I said, look, I'm not going to talk just for the sake of filling the room with my voice. If there is something I can add on, I'd love to. But, and I've learned one thing, men do talk as much as women do, if not more. We think, or we are brainwashed to believe that we talk a lot. Actually, no, we don't. At least at the workplace, from my experience, I said, you know, I don't want to say something just for the sake of being heard. I don't need to have the last word. So what she did, again, to my surprise, which is also a nice leadership lesson to take, she said, you know what, from now on, in every leadership meeting, I'm going to carve 15 minutes for you to talk. I don't care about what. You're going to cover something for the first 15 minutes, because at that time, there was 12 people in the leadership meeting, and it was just one woman, who was me. So for me, I felt extra special. I'm an expat. I'm an Arab. I'm not, you know, totally in sync with the whole workplace culture, the American culture, but she just like took me right in. So for me, that was, again, a huge turning point. I just needed 2 moments with this woman where she shuts someone up to give me space and then carves time to allow me to speak.
That's an amazing story. That is definitely an amazing story. And I think a lot of us can testify that we've had, from a woman's perspective, oh, man cut us off. From a man's perspective, maybe an older man cut you off. But to have someone open the door and to take that baton and be given space, that is absolutely amazing. And it's also, you highlighted such an important point on, you want to speak when there is a need and not just to speak. And it's so important because you want to make an impactful input. And that's absolutely amazing, a great takeaway. Um, I think then that would take us to the beginning of your journey was absolutely amazing. I want to know, what lessons from your journey do you believe every woman needs to hear to keep believing in herself despite life's challenges, workplace, personal, socialization? What are those lessons?
Okay, I think if you asked me this question 5 years ago or 10 years ago, it would be completely different. But now that I'm coming close to 50, my idea of so many things are very different. And I think one thing is we need to stop glorifying overworking. Okay, there's this glorification that, if you work for 12 to 14 hours, if you work day and night, if you work on the weekends, yeah, you are a hustler, you're amazing. No. But at the same time, there's a lot of questions being asked around work-life balance. And I want to say work-life balance is a delusion. Okay. I think there's every stage in your life, you just have to like really master the art of what work-life balance looks like for you. And because work-life balance, it comes with time, but it also comes with experience. And you learn how to make adjustments. And you also redefine what work-life balance means for you as you grow. There is no standard formula for work-life balance. That's one thing. Another thing is I actually got an executive or a life coach just a couple of years ago. All these years, I was like, what do I need one at this point in time in my life? And I'm coming towards the end of my career. Maybe I could have asked it before. But this was very life-changing for me because I just did a very simple exercise and I discovered what my self-sabotages are. And self-sabotages of women is actually very common. So if you ask a woman, are you a perfectionist? Many of us are guilty of it. If we ask a woman, are you hypervigilant? Many of us are guilty of it. And that comes from our gender, the pressure to perform, the pressure to get things right, the pressure not to make mistakes because it would be used against us, the pressure of not being emotional and bottling things up. And then, we maybe have our implosion in the bathroom or implosion in the car, but just deal with it the next day. And so for me, I think it's very important to tell every woman and every man, actually, because I have a lot of young people who come up to me and say, I want to be just like you. And I'm like, no, you don't. No, you don't. Please do not say that and do not glorify specific personalities. Each one of us has our own story. And there is no standard definition of success. That word success alone kind of makes me sick. If people want to define it, it's very confining. It's very suffocating. And, what achievement looks like on the outside is very different from what achievement on the inside feels like. And if it doesn't feel like you and you're not sitting comfortably with it, that's not success. No matter how many trophies you pick up, no matter how many people say lovely things about you, if you are broken when you're at home and you feel like, okay, is this it for me? That's not success. So I always tell everyone, don't be driven by success to get external validation on the outside. Find that internal validation within you and say, you know what I did today feels damn good. Whether I get a trophy, whether I get a thank you, whether I get appreciated or not, it's okay. Being self-aware, in my opinion, is your superpower. And this is something I've been, advocating for the young women. They always ask me, it's like, what do you mean self-awareness? And it's like, trust me, let's go through self-awareness first. And everything about the steps you will take next are going to be very different from what you thought you should be taking. And the other thing is people keep saying, what's my purpose? What's my purpose? I never obsessed about that. And I think part of it is because I did not know what my purpose is. And suddenly I have someone who comes into my life and just lands something on me. So I founded Lahunna through my cousin, who told me, you know what, Shatha, you're a person who's like a springboard for others. And I can see you doing things for others. And that's how Lahunna happened. I mean, I think thanks to COVID, I was so bored and I felt so restless. And I said, okay, I've done 20 years of consulting. What have I done for society? What have I done for the community? And that's when I started doing things for the community. And then I realized, you know what? Now I know what my purpose is. My experience in consulting helped me. And when people used to tell me, why are you doing people and culture? I said, I have no idea. It just keeps coming at me. It's not something I picked, but that now makes sense. I can connect the dots. My consulting in people and culture led me to do social work. And this is where I really feel purposeful. I don't know if this answers your question, but I thought those are my thoughts on it.
It definitely does. It absolutely does. Plus the practical element of finding out what your self-sabotaging traits are. Those physical activities that we can do are definitely beautiful takeaways. I have seen some comments in the comment section just saying thank you. I've seen someone saying they can relate with your story. I've seen some takeaways. Thank you so much, Shatha. You have shared a wealth of knowledge this evening, and we appreciate you coming through.
Thank you.
Please let's give a round of applause to Shatha.